There we go. Okay. Okay. All right. I got the recording. We're good. We're good. Ooh. Oh. Okay. So yeah. Quick recap. Chambering is very simply just having one object in one hand and spending the charge with your other hand. One of the easiest, simplest charge chambering combos is going to be with two balls, which is, I believe, called wrist rockets. Where, if you have one ball and you get a charge off of it, you summon a second and straight the second ball. The thing about charge chambering is that it's a lot about mix-up and like timings, less so sending things fast, although that is a very big benefit. With this, what you can do is if you summon a ball and hold it, there are two main variants of this you can do. You can wait to get the charge, straight the first ball, then send the second ball for a 1-2 hit, or you can grab the first ball, summon and hit the second ball before the charge goes off, and then throw the second charged ball for the both of them to be reaching the opponent at roughly the same time. This is fantastic for chip damage. It is one of the simplest charge chambering combos, and it's quick to set up, quite nice. Another quite simple is one of my favorite objects to chamber with is the pillar. The main reason I like pillar so much is because it is very agile. It's easy to control with your hand, it's easy to move around, and also, when chambering around it, it's slim enough that you don't really have to worry about it breaking with your other objects. As far as chambering with your primary or your non-dominant hand, that is a preference thing. Personally, whenever I am chambering, I chamber with my dominant hand, which is my left hand, and then I summon objects and do combos with my non-dominant hand. You don't have to do this. You can chamber by doing it with the same hand. So for example, if I have a pillar here, and I go to a ball straight, I can do a ball straight with the same hand that I'm chambering with, but it's a little bit more dangerous sometimes, and if you're not used to it, it can lead to hitting yourself.
Definitely harder to do.
A lot harder to do. However, the benefit of this is if you do it this way, if you have a pillar, and then you ball straight, when you're straighting, you move your pillar in front of you, leaving you with a bit more of a defensive option, which is quite nice. Other very simple combos are going to be with double cube, where you're just summoning one cube and sending another cube. You can do, for example, pillar cube. Basically, a big part of charge chambering is just kind of choosing what objects to use with the right scenarios. Yeah, I saw that. Just choosing what objects to use in the right scenarios, because you can chamber with anything you want, really. It's just what benefits you the most in the current situation. A lot of chambering isn't necessarily hard set, these are combos that you do with these objects, and these are mix-ups of timings you can do with charge chambering, and then you get to pick what objects you're going to be using for different situations. I think if I had to give a tip for double cube, which is one of the stronger chambering variants, because obviously cube is one of the better objects in the game, is I would either recommend hitting cube with your non-dominant hand that you're holding, or sorry, with the opposite hand that you're holding the first cube with, because this way, you don't have to worry so much about hitting your own cube. Or, if you do intend on hitting the cube with the same hand that you're chambering with, what you can do is you can summon cube 1, cube 2, and then just move your hand slightly in so that it gets stuck on the other cube, giving you a chance to hit the first cube and then the second cube.
Oh.
It's very, very helpful. Yeah. One of the more helpful and extremely strong and honestly underrated charge chambering techniques is very simply a charged slingshot. One of the easiest ways to do this is with a ball and a cube, where you just hug the base of the cube and slingshot it. where you're getting the slingshot momentum and the straight momentum, but on top of that, you're applying the charge momentum as well, which sends a grounded cube significantly farther than just like a regular slingshotted cube. This is great for catching. It is great for catching opponents off guard. And especially if your opponent is using a lot of ungrounded cubes and they're just kind of like throwing a lot of things around. A very simple slingshotted cube will
usually
not
they're
only
tossing around like explosive cubes. So
yeah.
right? So, like,
Well,
just
with
right
explosive
on that.
cubes, it won't work as well because it'll kind of trade with those. But with non-explosive cubes, it'll break right through most defenses that your opponent has to offer. Some of the downsides to charge chambering is going to be, like you said, Thormac, explode. Explode is a very, very dangerous tool when you are. If you're playing against somebody, especially with volatile, it's dangerous. Because you have your hold. If it gets exploded, which ungrounds it, you lose your charge and your hold. So, some of the best ways to combat this, while it is a little hard, is primarily going to be water bending, where you catch the object that your opponent is sending at you, and then counterattack with your own charge. What you can do as well is, this is more my preference kind of thing, where if I'm setting up a charge and I see my opponent is sending volatile stones at me, I will just return with spawning more objects myself to try and balance out me hitting them and then sending my held object after them after that. This will lead to hello, do you want to come back down? Thank you.
I was just grabbing this. Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. It's but yeah, this I think I'm gonna transition into the 3 main different types of chambering. There are 3 different playstyles that I have generally observed. The first of which is my playstyle that I play with the most, which is a very chip damage based chambering, where you're constantly switching out what objects you're using, when you're using charge, just like constantly spawning objects for yourself to gain charge off of, and then spawning other objects to use charge off of. The benefits of this is a very chip damage based playstyle like myself is going to be a lot better in like the long game kind of thing, where I'm just constantly kind of hitting my opponents, versus something more like defensive, where you aren't necessarily worried about constantly spending and using your charge, but that comes with the risk of an opponent just like exploding your things and not having that great of a time. The second general playstyle of charge chambering is going to be chambering return to sender, where when you have a charged object, you can run around with it. On host, it's a lot easier. You can dash around with it, but generally the idea is if you're going to be running around with the held object, you want to be running in the opposite direction of the hand that you're holding it in. Backwards and forwards is fine, but very rarely do you want to run in the same direction as your held object, especially on client. That's when it gets dangerous. However, what this allows...
in my opinion, I use it a lot. On client, it's actually easier to go into the same direction.
Interesting.
Because it lags behind a little bit more.
Okay.
And because it lags behind, there's more room. But a change of direction is going to be dangerous.
Okay, fair enough. The thing about chambered RTS is it's very good at abusing just random debris on the battlefield, where if your opponents are constantly sending cubes at you, in my case I just broke that one, but if there's just like a random wall on the field, you run up to it, hit it with the charge, and suddenly it's flying at them, and they're not going to be expecting it most of the time. Another really nice thing about chambered RTS is if you're really good at it and you can do like actual return to sender when your opponent is sending something at you, you catch it and send it back at them. Most people are not going to be prepared for a charged return to sender back at them. That is very scary. The other nice thing about charge and just like menial, just like random things on the battlefield, for example, if I just like set up some random things over here, is that an opponent is not going to expect a wall to slide that far, especially when ungrounded. Because if you have your charge and you've been running around for it for a while and your opponent doesn't know when you're going to be using it, even just the slightest extra little distance on a slid wall like that will catch somebody off guard. The last... yes.
Well, there's one thing I want to note.
Go for it.
That. And that's if you see, for example, a wall like this on the ground, and you think, oh, but I rather want to have it grounded. Too bad, because grounding, the stomp move, also consumes your charge.
I forgot to mention that.
Yeah. Be aware.
It's very strange.
Where's my charge gone? Stomp also consumes charge.
Yeah, if Stomp is considered a modifier because you are sending it down, so it will apply the charge to it because it will go down faster because it is a modifier. Other basic things... Yeah, basic things...
You can do an airstrike faster with it.
Yeah. Other basic things about chambering is just the mechanics of hold in general. You can't kick or charged uppercut your own grounded held object, but if you have an ungrounded held object, you can charged kick and uppercut it. This is due to a bug that they are going to be fixing. However, for the time being, it is good to keep in mind. It's something that we recently discovered about charge chambering, or I suppose I discovered about charge chambering, is the weird mechanics of when you have an object, you spend its charge, right? It loses its charge. If I didn't spend the charge, oops. So yeah, I used the charge from this ball. If you unhold it and rehold it, it will do the effect, but it won't give me another charge. However,
it also doesn't have the sound
without
effect.
the sound.
Yes, without the sound.
It's important.
The ding is more reliable than the effect as to when you're getting another charge. However, in a very strange turn of events that I recently discovered, initially we had thought that you get a chamber back depending on whether it changes states of being grounded or ungrounded or flicked. However, what the actual case is whenever you spend a charge, if your hold breaks naturally, you get the charge back. If you manually break the hold, you do not get the charge back. So this can be a many things. So if I expend the charge here and just like throw my cube in the air, if I didn't hit myself with it, it went out of my grab range, breaking the hold in a natural way. So if I grab it again, I can get another charge off of it, which is very strange. One of the things we thought was true is if you have a flicked object, you could always get another charge off of it. While this is true to an extent, this was only true because what's happening is when you straight it, it's getting it's getting outside of your hold range, and then you hold it again, and it gives you the charge back because your hold broke naturally. So, if your hold breaks due to your object being grounded, due to it being ungrounded, due to it just getting outside of your hold range, you can grab it again and get another charge off of it, which isn't too helpful when you're just constantly slinging rocks at your opponent, but for certain strategies, it can be helpful and fun.
Charged battery works differently.
Yes, charged battery is slightly different. Charged battery is when you hold onto an object and then unhold it manually. For some reason, you keep the charge. I personally am of the opinion that this is a bug, and I don't think it should be in the game because it is extremely powerful to be able to
lame version of charge chamber.
To just be able to surprise hit somebody with a charge. However, this is something that is currently in the game. Other than that, I do have some more fun chambering combos to showcase. My favorite personally currently is called the triple thread. I'm going to do it sideways here because it's a little easier to view. Where if you can do this with any object you want held, personally I find pillar the easiest. Where if you have a pillar, you summon a wall, a cube under it to boost it, and then straight the wall with the charge. What this is doing is, with cube boosting, we're giving the wall the aerial momentum it needs to get up, and then we're using the charge to straight it so that it goes further out forwards. After that, the follow-up is really up to you. Typically what I do is pillar, wall, cube straight. I then dash up, uppercut straight the cube, and then uppercut my pillar after my opponent, trying to attack them with 3 objects at the same time. This would fit under the subcategory of the, like, big combo setup chambering moves. And I honestly think it is one of the most effective chambering moves, just because, like, it's very linear, and you have to be, your opponent basically, if they move out of the way, it's very easy for them to do that. But at the same time, it is also really hard to deal with a flying wall, a cube, and a pillar coming at you all at the same time. It's a combo that I like to call a self-playing combo, because by the time you're done setting up wall cube, the 1 second that it takes for your charge to go off has already gone off. So you don't need to worry about, like, waiting for your charge or anything most of the time, because when you finish setting it up, if I got it right, the charge has already gone off and is ready to be used. I think that this is probably one of the most effective chambering combos, because it is just extremely helpful, and, like, it's really good at overwhelming opponents, especially opponents that are really good at returning to sender. Another chambering combo that Mume has come up with, I never remember the name of it. Is it like bread and butter, strawberry jam?
Bread with butter spread.
Bread with butter spread. Where basically, what Mume will do is have a wall and a pillar, and they will do a slingshot uppercut, but since the timing...
Yes.
The timing on charge slingshot uppercut is really, really tight, because the object is moving away from you so fast. So what Mume does is abuses this fact and does a charge slingshot on the wall, sending it quite far, and then the uppercut inputs on the pillar, sending the pillar quite far as well. This is a really good like two-pronged attack where you're hitting your opponent with multiple objects at the same time, making it, once again, harder to react to.
You can also do it with balls, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But you can do slingshot uppercuts on objects that are held and you have a charge. And yes, it does send them very, very far. However, it is quite fast to input and kind of inconsistent, in my opinion, from what I've practiced.
I get where you're coming from, but whenever I hear
Yeah.
someone say inconsistent, it's kind of just code in my brain.
Oh,
for
yeah.
They didn't practice it enough.
Like it is something that is 100% learnable and practicable with enough time.
Yes.
But once again, the timing on it is just pretty strict. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy for me since I've already optimized my
Yeah.
stripper.
There are some chambering combos called infinite chambering. This is more of a party trick than an actual move. Where basically the easiest variant of this is going to be 2 cubes, where you have 1 cube, you get the charge off of this, you summon a second, hold it, swing it to the side, and then straight the first cube. After straighting the first cube, the ding
yeah,
of your
that.
second cube comes out, ready for you to spawn another one, and repeat. This is an infinite chambering combo where, once again, due to the name, you are just constantly in this swing back and forth with your 2 cubes, getting charge off of the one that you just spawned, sending the one that you didn't just spawn, and back and forth. It's definitely a lot of fun to do. It's really good for practicing chambering and like getting used to the timings and things like that. However, in an actual match, not that practical, because your opponents are just going to kind of overwhelm you while you're trying to do this. Another infinite chambering combo that is a bit harder to do is with 2 balls. where you can alternate, if you're careful enough, with the 2 balls in each hand. Now, granted, this has to be done quite carefully, where you hold in one hand, because the danger in this comes from A, breaking your other ball with your first ball, and B, straighting the right ball when you do it. Once again, this is more of a party trick than it is a actual effective battle technique, but it is good for practicing chambering and not accidentally hitting your held object. Double chambering is something that is a bit more effective and very fun to do. Double chambering is abusing the fact that charge has about a 1 second time before it goes off. So, you have a pillar, you grab it, it takes a second to go off. If you summon a second one, you hold it and send out an object before the second ding goes off. You then get a second charge, quote unquote, because you spent the first charge on the other object before the second ding went off. You can't have 2 charges at the same time. You can only ever have one. But, once again, we circumvent this by just holding a second object and sending another object in the time that it takes for the second object to go off. In my opinion, some of the best examples of this are going to be ball, cube, where you get the charge off the ball, hold the cube, send out a charged ball with the first charge, and then send out the second ball on top of the cube with the second charge. And that way you get to attack with 3 objects, both of the balls are flying at light speed, and then you get to send the cube afterwards. Oh, it just occurred to me, I have not checked the chat for questions. Hang on. Do we have questions?
Maybe there are some questions there.
Let's take a peek. Hang on. Man, okay. No, I'm just trying to see if we have any questions. I don't think so.
Didn't time it right.
Okay, not really. All right, cool. So yeah, there aren't that many questions in the Discord chat, but some things that they were mentioning is just the chambered cube launching, which is extremely helpful, which I will just touch on again real quick, with using the fact that the cube gives it upwards momentum to then abuse that and use this charge on it later. I will go back to that in just a minute. I would just like to talk a tiny bit more about double chambering. Double chambering can also be done, in my opinion. I think it is some of the best double chambering involves pillars, because while they are easily breakable, they are also very easy to set up, and a charged pillar will go very far when thrown. So one of my personal favorites in my pick damage based playstyle is going to be pillar, hold the second pillar, send out a ball while we at it, and then send the second 2 pillars afterwards. TB, I'm sorry, you just happen to be standing right in front of me. So I have pillar, I summon a second one, hold it, and then in between the time that it takes for the second pillar charge to go off, I send out a ball. Because what you're trying to do here is use the first charge before you spend the second charge. Or sorry, before you get the second charge. Hence letting you double chamber. Triple chambering is hypothetically possible. However, it would have to be pre-set up, and in that case, it is very easy for your opponent to just send an exploding cube at you and just immediately cancel it, kind of thing. Double chambering is a lot of fun, and it's quite good. Another double chambering combo is going to be cube. The hard setup about this is not ungrounding or breaking your initial cube with the first one. Some tips I have for helping with that is that the chamber position for summoning objects with your fists at your side, or base pose as other people call it, can be very, very wide with moves still coming up. So getting used to summoning cubes at a much wider of an angle so you don't worry about hitting your first cube can be quite helpful with that. From there, you have 2 cubes, and then the second charge, you can either, send a ball or hit something else with your first charge and then spend the second charge as double chambering goes. A combo that Shoeless was showing me that he was working on is going to be cube with your first one, and then what you want to do is very similar to the reason this, where, if you're close enough to 2 cubes that are on top of each other, you will always grab the one on the bottom. So what you do is you have 1 cube already, summon 2 cubes, grab the one on top. I missed. I'm better at this with Pillar, except for Pillar sometimes just ungrabs itself. Where, like I said, you summon 2 cubes, grab the top one ideally, and then spend your first charge on the bottom one before your second charge goes off on the top one that you grabbed. It's kind of hard, because like I said, a cube sends cubes up quite fast, so you have to be ready to catch that second cube. But if you do pull it off, you can get close and then charge slingshot the bottom cube with the first charge, and then struppercut another cube with the second charge, sending 3 cubes at your opponent. Very scary. Now, something I'd like to briefly touch on is going to be chambered anti-air. Chambering anti-air is very, very helpful because you can get objects. Obviously, you could just explode uppercut balls or something like that. But with chambering, especially the use of a charged kick can send an object quite high in the air. So for some anti-air chambering combos, sometimes what I will do is I will have a pillar and I will kick uppercut the object I'm sending up. The timing on that is a little bit harder because I find that I tend to accidentally uppercut my pillar a lot. But with enough practice, you can get the uppercut, the charged kick uppercut. You could do it the opposite way, where you uppercut kick a charged object. But my favorite form of anti-air is similar to the triple threat combo, where you are boosting a wall with your cube. You're doing the same thing, boosting a wall with your cube, but in this case, rather than straighting the wall, you're going to want to uppercut your wall. So you have your pillar, you summon a cube under it, and then uppercut the wall, and it gives it a really, really nice arc upwards. Now, once again, obviously, you can do this kind of stuff with just like regular combos, probably like a strupper kick or something like that. However, the benefit of doing this comes in the fact that now that you've used your anti-air and hopefully hit your opponent with it, you now have both a cube and a pillar at your arsenal ready to attack. So, rather than just spending one object anti-airing, you spend your wall anti-airing with your charge and then have 2 more objects already ready to send at your opponent as they're falling. It is quite helpful and quite good.
So basically, instead of having constant stream of objects coming at your opponent, they come in bursts.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
3 or 2.
that's a big part of chambering, is sending objects in bursts. And then also just like changing up the timing in which they're coming. Like I said,
you have a lot of options, like holding one object still for defense while attacking with another, attacking with both structures, or even sometimes just using everything for defense. Because even if you are holding just one structure and an attack is coming in, you can also use charge as a straight defense.
Or you could preserve it with a perfect guard, but that's just my guardian.
Hey, this is a chambering masterclass, not a guard masterclass.
Well, if you want something kind of like a perfect guard, you can hold 2 pillars for that stop defense.
True.
It's quite hard, but it is possible.
I mean, you want to protect the structure. Hit stop protects the structure if you time it correctly. It's a much more viable option than ruining your chambering setup by using the charge to defend yourself.
You can do a similar setup where you do cube uppercut. That sends it a bit more forward, but I like wall because A, it's a lot bigger, does more damage. And also just with wall, it's a lot easier to like it's just bigger and it's a bigger target and easier to discover your opponent with. Another very simple chambering anti-air is very simply going to be an uppercutted charged ball, where if you go to do a cannonball and just uppercut it with the charge, it sends it at a really nice angle at hitting your opponents just like that. So you can get like a cube or a ball, but just a chambered uppercutted ball will send it at a really nice anti-air angle.
With chambering, it's always the case you don't necessarily need chambering.
Yeah.
But it brings more options.
Yeah.
Of course.
The chambering is not strong because of the options it gives you. Like you could send a ball that high without chambering, but A, it's really fun, and B, it's the mix-up options that it gives you. Chambering makes you significantly more unpredictable because of how many different follow-ups with combos you can do. Like, double ball can either be wrist rockets, where you're throwing one, maybe the other first. Double ball could be uppercut, where you uppercut the first one with a weak to bait it out, and then uppercut the second one. It's just, it gives you so many options to work with, making you a lot more unpredictable and harder to follow.
And also important to know, even if you don't use the charge stone, the techniques are often still useful.
True. Because these techniques without charge stones will still work just fine. It's just they won't go as far most of the time, obviously because you're not using a charge with it, but it still has the same principle of using multiple objects at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes, because there's actually a hole trap effect, because just like flick traps, if a structure is behind another structure, it still has force pulling towards you. Yes.
Yeah.
And I never measured the difference between the two, but I am 100% sure it gives more strength.
Yeah. Now,
Because if you
obviously,
press a structure against another structure while you're chambering.
Actually, I suppose this is a good time to check if anybody is curious right now.
You can also modify its angle by pushing at it in different ways.
How am I holding? How am I holding both the cube and the ball? Okay, so you can hold two objects with the same hand. Where basically, normally if I were to do that, it would let go of my hold on the ball, right?
Frost.
But since just a second, I'm answering a question.
For you.
But if you have the ball and you're close enough to the cube, what happens is the ball is further away from you, meaning that your game prioritizes grabbing the cube first, which is why that works. Where if you go ball cube, you can slingshot the one under it because, once again, the cube is closer to you and the ball is there, rather a bit further away, so it prioritizes grabbing the cube as well. Hopefully that helps answer that question a little bit. What about you guys in the park? Do you guys have any, like, chambering related questions, or? That's fair.
I have something that I've been messing around with that I think you'd like.
Sure, hit me.
Yeah.
But, anyway. So basically, if there's a structure-locked railgun like this, and then you use the railgun, it will pop right out
Oh,
for
interesting.
another one. So I was thinking you could chamber something like this, and then have a 2-shot railgun.
Huh.
Comes out at approximately the same time.
Interesting. That's probably something we're gonna have to talk to Grant about. Real quick, just because I haven't talked about the move at all, Flick is an interesting tool when chambering, because Flick allows you to get charges back as long as, like I said, you break the hold in a natural way. So, a playstyle that I've been messing around with a little bit has been using my charge from my flicked object, sending it out, breaking the hold, and then catching it again to get another charge back. Ball is quite fragile and a little bit scary to do this with, but another thing I've been messing around with has been what I like to call moon jumping, where I flick hold a ball, expend the charge, and then dash jump with it to fly to the other side, breaking the hold while I'm at it because I have such momentum moving to the other side, holding it again, and then using the charge from there. And then rinse repeating this process of using this chambered ball to move around, break the hold it again, and get another charge off. Ball is just a example of being able to do like a chambering with flight. You can also do it with a cube if you are careful enough with it, because cube is a lot bigger and will get in the way of your chambering. A cube is a lot bigger and will get in the way, but the cube flight is also a lot safer because, you know, it's bigger, it's simple, people know how to do it. It's just more consistent than ball flight. Is there anything else I wanted to touch on before? Yeah, I don't know. I think that's mostly everything I had to talk about. Chambering is ultimately the strength of chambering comes to your creativity. Chambering really is just a technique of using charge on not necessarily the object that you are currently holding. And this means you can do it with cube ball, cube pillar, wall, whatever you want to do with it. So, it's just the more creative you are in your gameplay, the stronger chambering can be. It's a mix-up tool, it's great for catching opponents off guard, and it sets up for some really fun combos. Practicing this in the park, I'm sure, has been not the greatest experience for, you know, European players. I'm in Canada, it's a disaster. But on host, all of this will be... Okay. But on host, a lot of this will feel a lot more natural to you and probably a lot easier to do. My tips for chambering on client is honestly just believing that it's going to work. Because ultimately, chambering on client will be more dangerous, it will be harder, because your object is going to lag behind you while you are playing. But as long as you are confident in yourself and believe that, like, you know, I'm not going to hit myself with this, typically you can get away with chambering on client. It's not impossible, it's just a tiny bit harder. I'm gonna check the Discord chat real quick one more time to see if we have any more questions. Let's see here. I don't
Cormac,
so.
you're getting some hate for not sharing
Yeah, okay.
the trick earlier.
But yeah, other than that, I think that is all I have to share with chambering for the time being. Chambering is still...
I want to show something funny, even though
Absolutely.
it's not really that useful.
Go for it, Yume.
And that's hole traps, which also still allows you to charge chamber. Still, you have your chambering, but you can also...
Yeah, right. I forgot, man.
It's with extra steps, but it's really funny. And I've hit one person before with it, and it was really funny.
Nice.
I advise trying it.
Now.
But yeah, I think that's generally all I have to say. Chambering is a lot of fun. I recommend picking it up, or at least trying it if you haven't before. And just screw around with it. Try a bunch of different combos, try double chambering, find out what objects you enjoy using the most. Hell, if you want, you can even try and do chambered like flight setups where you have a pillar and a cube. You kick the cube and then you dash jump flick to, oh my god, that's the first time I've hit that. Wait. Holy shit. Sorry.
The moment I stopped looking for a second, you're doing something amazing.
That's crazy. I'm getting goosebumps. That is the first time I've actually hit that. Oh my god. That's But yeah, where you can do things like that, where sure, you could just double kick the cube to set up the flight, but it's the fact that you're honestly, in my opinion, one of the biggest strengths of chambering is this goddamn object. Just holding something will make your opponent not necessarily scared, but it forces them to consider it as an option, and that is dangerous. Because if you just have an object at the ready, I can follow this up with a ball, I can follow it up with a wall cube, I can follow it up by just sending the pillar itself. The fact that it's on the field just gives your opponent so many more options to take into account, and that's, in my opinion, what is the strongest part of charge chambering.
I agree.
It's how unpredictable you suddenly become, and using that to your advantage. Anyways, thank you all for joining me here today. I hope
Thanks for hosting.
no problem. I hope that everybody learned a bit about charge chambering and, are more interested in learning about it, or even if you're just here to attend and learn about charge chambering so you know how to counter it better. Thanks for coming. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad I could share my wisdom about charge chambering. Mume, I'd like to shout out you. Mume is one of our best charge chambers in the community of people who charge chamber. Mume is the person who inspired me to think a lot more about return to sender chambering. If you watch Mume's stream, they do a lot of RTS chambering and it's really impressive. Obviously, myself, I do a lot of pick damage-based style, and I have been one of the biggest contributors to learning about the science of chambering and that kind of stuff. And then obviously, Shoeless as well, because Shoeless is also one of the biggest contributors to learning about chambering, because it was Shoeless and Ender Vlad who came up with the idea in the first place. So, shout out everybody there.
On the Shoeless channel, where he posts 2 videos of him just doing matches, you can see a lot of charge chambering tag.
I've played a few matches against Shoeless, and he's a lot of fun to play against, because he does both a bunch of weird flight mechanics, but also mixes it up with charge chambering, and it's awesome. It's so much fun. I absolutely recommend checking it out. Thanks for coming. I'm not going to delay this any longer. I've said goodbye like 4 times now. I hope we all learned something. Yeah, it's definitely a little hard to learn sometimes. I'm going to once again just check the Discord one more time. Okay, I think we're good. All right.
There we go.
Well, yeah.
It's beautiful.
Oh right, yeah. So in the next
let's finish with it.
Just to finish with this, in the next update, the like I said, charge chambering is a bug, not necessarily a feature. But we talked with the developers, and they're going to be keeping it in the game. What they're going to be doing with it next patch is they're going to fix not being able to kick or uppercut.
Well, not next patch.
Or no, I think it is coming with the next patch.
In the future.
Or in the future, something. Yeah. But they're going to fix not being able to kick your own grounded structure. They're going to fix not being able to uppercut your own grounded structure. Personally, I believe they're fixing the charge battery where you get an invisible charge. They might not. Yeah. They definitely said that they were going to be changing the animation for charge. A suggestion that we gave was that a charge particles go from the objects into your hands, where in that case, I would be much more okay with charge batterying, because your opponent could see you get the battery and then still see you have the charge in your hand, making it a lot more predictable. Or sorry, reactable rather.
Yeah. It's not 100% sure what will happen to charge battery, but just be aware, if you're gonna learn charge battery, that the future of that is still a little bit uncertain.
It's in the air, yeah. Yeah.
I have a tournament match in 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the only situation where it's really useful. Because in all other situations, you rather want to have multiple structures. But if you know it's going to be destroyed anyway.
Okay. I am hungry, so I am leaving. Goodbye. Oh,
Have a nice
shoot.
dinner.
Thank
I will
you.
guard stone till my last breath.
Thanks for learning about chambering with me. It's been a
Equip guard
blast.
stone.
And,
It's got lots of cool tech. Goodbye.
And as I learn more, I'll keep you guys updated. We're in the charge chambering channel. I know that are so many messages in that channel just to talk about and that kind of stuff. Honestly, you don't have to scroll through all of it. Most of it is just me yapping about random bullshit. But if you are interested about learning, there are a lot of like really valuable just like tips and videos and that kind of stuff in there. So check it out if you're interested. Like I said, I'm gonna go get some food. So